Good morning, everyone. I'm Josh Shapiro, honored to serve as Pennsylvania's Attorney General, and I couldn't be more pleased today to be joined by some fabulous people from here in Pennsylvania and also from Boston, although they promised me they would not be making any Patriots references during their remarks today. I'm joined by Tamia Rashima Jordan, pardon me, the Executive Director of Operation Lipstick, Dr. Dorothy Johnson Spite, a good friend and the founder of the National Executive Director of Mothers in Charge, Ebony LePen, a lipstick supporter, a survivor and program director of We Are Better Together, and of course, my dear friend Darrell Clark, the president of Philadelphia City Council. Last week, I announced my office's Track and Trace initiative, a smart on crime, data-driven approach to reducing gun violence across Pennsylvania. Gun violence, I believe, is a public health epidemic. It is killing 1,500 Pennsylvanians per year. Philadelphia has seen an average of one shooting every 6 hours over the last decade. Look, we constantly see headlines about horrific mass shootings that are occurring all too frequently. But what we hear less about every day is everyday gun violence that is devastating communities all across Pennsylvania. Track and Trace takes an all-hands-on-deck approach by empowering law enforcement, gun retailers, consumers, and gun owners to take very specific, concrete steps to increase gun safety. And we are already seeing results in just the past week. Last week in Erie, I stood with local law enforcement to announce their commitment to tracking all guns recovered in crime. That is a requirement under our state law. Participation from local police departments is already growing, and it is critical to helping us determine how a gun stolen from a rural hunting cabin in Pennsylvania can end up on the streets of Philadelphia and used in a crime. In Pittsburgh, I stood with the CEO of Dick's Sporting Goods to announce that they will now implement an e-record of sale on all guns purchased in their Pennsylvania stores. Another state law, but a state law that often relied on paper, now will be relying on a digital form, which will help speed up the process, eliminate backlog, and allow those of us in law enforcement to more efficiently and effectively solve crime. These are incredible tools to assist law enforcement in quickly tracing these guns used in crimes. Now today, I am here in Philadelphia with leaders of Operation Lipstick and Mothers in Charge to announce the third prong of our plan, educating consumers to prevent straw purchasing and the purchases of firearms to prohibited purchasers. A straw purchase occurs when one individual purchases a gun on behalf of another individual who is unable to buy one legally. It's important to understand that even if you are not the one to pull the trigger, you will still be held criminally liable if you are the one who supplied the gun to someone who is not supposed to have it. If someone cannot legally purchase a gun, there's a reason for that. And even if you purchase a gun legally yourself, you violate the law if you transfer it illegally. Straw purchasing and illegal transfers are serious crimes with serious consequences, including years in prison. Look, we all know that you can't buy a six-pack of beer for an underage kid. But too few people know that you can't buy a gun for a felon or a prohibited purchaser, because if you do, it's a crime. Straw purchasing is the most common channel identified in trafficking investigations. Data, in fact, from a national survey of firearm licensees suggests that there are more than 30,000 attempted straw purchases each year. And women in particular, make up 80% of straw purchasers nationwide, 80%. In Philadelphia alone, our gun violence task force opens up an average of 25 straw purchasing cases each and every month. That's where these amazing organizations come in. Mothers in Charge and Operation Lipstick have each made it their mission to bring people together under the shared goal of combating gun violence in our communities. Lipstick, here's what it stands for: ladies involved in putting a stop to inner city killing. Lipstick. It is the only peer-to-peer program in the country of its kind. Mothers in Charge, as you know, has served the people of our city since 2003 under Dorothy's leadership, working tirelessly to support families whose lives have been torn apart by violence, including children, young adults, and families. These two missions are intrinsically connected. Mothers in Charge, founder and National Executive Director Dorothy Johnson Spite, who you will hear from in just a moment, lost her son. His name was Khalik Jabbar Johnson. Remember that name, Khalik Jabbar Johnson. He was lost to gun violence. Dorothy has turned this tragedy into her motivation to prevent other moms from experiencing the same horrific loss as she has. The gun involved in Khalik's murder was obtained through straw purchasing. I'm proud to stand with these organizations today to announce that the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General is providing a $123,000 grant to Operation Lipstick in partnership with Mothers in Charge to implement an outreach initiative for women in the Philadelphia area to educate them specifically about the dangers of straw purchases. The work that Operation Lipstick does to educate and support women to prevent straw purchases from occurring in the first place is a critical piece of our fight against gun violence. Indeed, it's the third of three prongs of our track and trace initiative. Through this initiative, I know we can create positive change in three very targeted areas that this grant will work on. One, changing the prevailing culture that makes it acceptable for women to straw purchase, hide, or even hold guns illegally. Second, I know that working together, we can expand public awareness of straw purchasing and let people know it's a serious crime. And third, importantly, we want to develop more women into leaders equipped with the knowledge, tools, skills, and resolve to help their peers refuse to traffic guns. We will achieve these goals through community workshops, school presentations, leadership trainings, media campaigns, public service announcements, and other effective outreach methods. And here's the thing, we know it works. In Boston, Operation Lipstick helped achieve a 33% reduction in gun crimes by women. Now, with Operation Lipstick teaming up with Mothers in Charge, I know we're going to make progress to reduce gun crimes and straw purchases in particular right here in Philadelphia. Look, we cannot continue to sustain the horrifying levels of everyday gun violence here in Philadelphia and in places like Chester and Reading and Norristown and Pottstown and Hazleton and Erie and Harrisburg, all across this great Commonwealth. Fighting back against this crisis requires an all-hands-on-deck approach. Law enforcement, gun retailers, and the public. Everyday Pennsylvanians have a role to play, and you're seeing that here today. We all share a common purpose. We want to create safer communities. And I know, Dorothy, that working together, we can save moms from having to grieve. We can save lives in our parks, in our schools, on our playgrounds, and on our streets. Working together, we can empower women to work with us to make a difference. And I couldn't be more proud to be here with these strong women and with this council president here today to announce this important initiative. It's now my pleasure to bring Dorothy Johnson Spite up to share her thoughts from Mothers in Charge.
Good morning, and first of all, let me thank the Attorney General, Councilman Clark, and Lipstick kind of emotional right now because this is the work that Mothers in Charge has been doing for quite a while. My son, colleague Jabbar Johnson, was shot 7 times over a parking space in 2001. So we've been on the front lines for the last 16 years. But it's something that you never, ever get over. The mothers of Mothers in Charge and other mothers across this country who have lost loved ones, sons, daughters, and loved ones to violence. It's a pain you live with forever. You never get over it. But we continue to do this work because we want to save other mothers and grandmothers and sisters and wives from having to experience the pain that we're living through. This has been something that we wanted to do, Mothers in Charge here in Philadelphia with Lipstick, for quite a while. So I'm so pleased and honored that our Attorney General has taken the steps to make this and bring this to Philadelphia. It is so needed here. Mothers in Charge started in 2003, and we have been doing lots of work around gun violence prevention for quite a while. But this is something new, to have an educational component where we educate women about the perils of buying guns that end up on the streets taking the lives of our loved ones is so crucial and important to this work. I sat in the courtroom during my son's murder trial and heard the girlfriend of the shooter of my son talk about how she went to a local gun store right outside of Philadelphia and purchased a gun for him. This was the gun that killed my son. She sat in the courtroom and talked about how he encouraged her and asked her to do this or demanded that she do this. And she purchased that gun. This happens every day in the city, whether it's because of a fear of the guy, the man, or whether it's for money that they are doing this, or a pocketbook, or just because they are involved with the wrong man in their lives and this is what they want to do for them. As a result, a life is taken by someone who shouldn't have a gun. It's not about legal gun owners. It's about people who shouldn't have guns because of criminal histories or mental health issues or all kinds of things like that. So this work that we're doing here, that we're beginning to take it to the streets, take it to the beauty salons, take it to schools and classrooms and all over this city to educate women on the decision that they make. It's their crime, but it's their time. It's their crime, it's his crime, but it's their time. There's laws that will send them to jail and oftentimes to prison, and most times women don't know that. So this educational component that we're launching here is not only going to stop what is happening with so many women getting involved with this drug purchasing, but it will save lives. And I'm so honored to be a part of this because I know it's truly going to make a difference and save lives. So other mothers, grandmothers, and aunts and sisters don't have to live with the pain that I live with every single day. It doesn't go away. It's a pain that I live with every day. So I thank again the Attorney General, our Councilman Clark, and Lipstick. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Timia Jordan, and I'm the Executive Director of Operation Lipstick. First and foremost, a huge thank you to our partner organization, Mothers in Charge, and their Executive Director, Dr. Dorothy Johnson-Spite. I would also like to express gratitude to the Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General. We deeply appreciate your support and the opportunity to partner on addressing the pressing issue of our time, gun violence. Lipstick stands for Ladies Involved in Putting a Stop to Inner City Killing. And Lipstick works to stop women from being recruited, coerced, and exploited into making straw purchases of guns. In a straw purchase, folks with clean records buy guns for folks who cannot pass a background check. And straw purchasing plays a major role in supplying guns used in violence that destroys inner city neighborhoods in Philadelphia, Boston, and many other major U.S. cities. What is surprising is that women are acting as the straw purchaser, playing an outsized role in gun trafficking networks that pump crime guns into our neighborhoods. Men who cannot pass a background check often use women with clean records to buy the guns for them. One woman straw purchaser can buy multiple guns in a single transaction and fuel a multitude of crimes. Straw purchasing has been largely overlooked until now. And Lipstick is the first program to shed light on the risks and consequences women face when they straw purchase, smuggle, store, or hide guns for anyone who can't obtain guns legally. Lipstick works. The program has been credited by Boston law enforcement with a 33% drop in gun crimes by women. And the key to Lipstick's effectiveness is that we put the power in women's hands to change the way crime guns flow into and around their city and their community. We ensure that women know the truth, that buying, hiding, or holding a gun for someone who can't own guns legally is a serious crime that fuels neighborhood gun violence, mass incarceration, trauma, injury, and death. A gun straw purchased by a woman is 2 times as likely to be used in a gun crime. And we are changing cultural norms that treat straw purchasing and gun smuggling as a victimless crime. And we're also changing behaviors by reducing the number of women exploited to straw purchase, hide, and transport guns illegally. And we are doing this in a way that empowers, heals, offers leadership and training, boosts self-esteem, and creates a sense of sisterhood and fellowship. Our principal message is this: we refuse to be used to take a life. We refuse to be used to take a life. And this new partnership with the Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General and Mothers in Charge will allow us to educate and empower more women who need to hear our message before it's too late, before a gun ends up in the wrong hands or someone else is killed or sent to prison. When a man tells a woman, "Buy this gun for me," she'll know she risks going to jail. When he says, "You do it if you love me," she'll know that's not what love looks like. And we're excited about this opportunity to bring Lipstick to Philadelphia. We will not be satisfied until we bring our message to the most vulnerable members of our population, empower leadership and healing, break cycles of violence and trauma, and make all of our communities safer. Thank you. And so now I'd like to bring up my colleague, B. Butterworth, who will do the iron pipeline demonstration, and also some of the women with Mothers in Charge.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for having me. So, as Tamia said, my name is B. Butterworth, and I'm with Operation Lipstick. So right now we're going to do a presentation for you of the iron pipeline, just a demonstration to contextualize where the media and often the public is focusing their attention in shootings. So first we have the gun dealer, the straw buyer, the shooter, and the victim. When a shooting occurs, where are the media and the public often focusing their attention? The victim and the shooter, right? When we focus our attention on that end of the iron pipeline, we're missing what's happening up here. And so we're not getting as many guns off the streets as we could. Now, ladies, if you can please flip your cards inside out. Here we have another context for the conversation around food contamination. So when there's an outbreak of salmonella or E. coli, we can see here we have the peanut plant, the trucking company, the supermarket, and the victim. When there's an outbreak, we're not focusing our attention on just the supermarket and the victim, but we're shifting the focus all the way up to the farms, the peanut plants, and the trucking company. So please shift your cards back. Operation Lipstick and Mothers in Charge, we're aiming to do the same thing for the iron pipeline conversation. We can increase our impact and get more guns off the street when we shift that focus up the pipeline, away from just the shooter and the victim, but into the straw purchaser and the dealers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ebony LePen, and I'm happy to be here all the way from Boston, Mass. I'm honored to be a part of bringing Lipstick to Philadelphia under the leadership of Dorothy Johnson Spike from Mothers in Charge. I am one of many Lipstick ladies, and I'd like to share a little bit of my story with you about how Lipstick has helped change my life. 3 years ago, June 2016, I lost my husband, Anthony P. Clay, to homicide, a homicide that is still unsolved. And I would certainly call that my last straw. Left with a stepdaughter who's 23 and 2 young sons, the age of 3 years old and 5 months at the time. I completely hit rock bottom. I have been affected by homicide and incarceration my whole life. Also experiencing firsthand buying, storing, and hiding guns, including the consequences and repercussions of those actions. When I met Ruth Rollins, the former executive director and co-founder of Operation Lipstick, I was exhausted and living in fear by the gun violence that was plaguing my family and all the members in my community. She embraced me in non-judgment and began to educate me on straw buying and changing the narrative of good victim and bad victim. It was at that point I decided to be a part of the solution and began helping to empower young girls and establishing healthy boundaries and knowing their self-worth with Operation Lipstick, the ladies involved in putting a stop to inner city killing. I want all impressionable youth to know the person who asks you to hide, hold, or store a gun is actually choosing their safety over yours. Know your worth. Choose self-preservation. Say no. Saying no will save a life from incarceration or death. And with your help, we can stop the illegal flow of guns in all of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. First, I'd like to thank my friend, my colleague, and my partner in continuing on behalf of government to make all our communities across the state, and particularly in the city of Philadelphia, and particularly in the 22nd Police District, which I represent, a safer place by getting guns off the streets. I want to thank our friends from Lipstick and their commitment and great work and measurable work that you've done over a period of time, and we are very happy to be able to adopt that strategy here. I want to thank my good friends from Mothers in Charge, whom I've known for a lot of years, and I remember you guys were operating on less than a shoestring budget, but your commitment continued to be strong, and you continue to be aggressive, and since have set a template for what it's like to be out here on behalf of victims and making sure that our streets are safe. This whole issue with respects to gun trafficking, straw purchasing, I just want to tell you a little brief story. I've had an occasion to go to a number of gun shows. I'm an American. I'm allowed to buy a gun. I purchase legal gun. Not a lot of them, but bottom line, I believe in safety. But the most recent visit was with two of my colleagues, Councilman Kenyatta Johnson and Councilman Jones, and a former ATF agent. And the purpose of that visit was to determine the flow of guns. And interestingly enough, when we went to that gun show up in Oaks, Pennsylvania, we saw so many women in the gun show, AG, and we were like somewhat surprised that there were so many women that were interested in purchasing guns. And the former ATF agent says, Darryl, that's not really what's going on in a lot of instances. The bottom line is a lot of these individuals here are not qualified because of various reasons to purchase guns. So these women are coming here to purchase the gun legally, and somehow the gun will eventually be conveyed to that individual. And it awakened me, and that's why I'm so excited that you all, and AG, I want to thank you again so much for putting that forfeiture money into play, bringing a real focus to this. There's a simple reality in today's world and in the streets that people, when you hear the word gun trafficking, a lot of people say, well, that's something I see on TV, somebody bringing boats in and, truckloads of weapons in and just dumping them on the streets. But when people hear straw purchase, they kind of say, well, what's that, straw purchase? The reality, it's the same thing. It is the same thing. And people need to understand that you will get the same time, be it gun trafficking charge or straw purchase. It's the same thing. So we're encouraging and we're prepared to work with you all in every way, every imaginable way, to make sure that people understand that. Because the simple reality, with all of the things that we're trying to do to make our streets a safer place, there's one underlying theme: the availability of weapons, illegal weapons, and the proliferation of weapons in our streets. So to the Attorney General, to our good friends from Lipstick, To my good friend Dorothy and your troops, Mothers in Charge, I just want to say we're fully committed. I want to thank you all so much for the great work that you've done. We're there. We're going to be there with you 100% of the way. So thank you all so much. Thanks, JJ.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're happy to take questions. I know anyone up here will. Let me just say a word about Council President Clark. He has made it a priority of this city council to deal with the public health epidemic of gun violence, and I appreciate his leadership here today and every day in the city of Philadelphia. And with that, I know we'll be happy to answer any questions. A number of steps that we have on how many women in the city have been charged with shore purchase. Be happy to get that data back to you. Hey, Laura.
I have a question about the 33% reduction number in Boston. Are those all gun crimes by women, or is that specifically straw purchase?
So that is actually all gun crimes by women, but with the reduction in straw purchases, it has impacted the reduction in all gun crimes by women. I hope I made sense when I answered that. Yeah. Yes. So actually, recently, our Attorney General and also another organization that we are a part of, the Mass Coalition Against Gun Violence, together we're launching an analysis of our gun crimes database information, and so that information we hope to glean from that.
I would, if I could just add, Laura, and Laura, you're always welcome in the front row here. You don't have to be in the back row, but part of the funding in this grant, it's not just to do the education and the outreach, but to also be able to collect the data at the end of this program so that we can come back and report to you on its efficacy. Based on what we've seen in Boston, we expect it to be effective, but I think it's also important that we're able to show that. And so we'll be able to come back to that with that data, in good time.
I noticed you spoke a little bit about the importance of having state and local officials kind of engaged on this front. I can't help but notice there's no one here from the DA's office. Wondering why that might be.
This is a statewide initiative, and it's a statewide initiative that we launched last week in Erie, in Pittsburgh, and this is important work, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate with everyone, with the district attorney, with the police commissioner here in Philadelphia, and with other, pardon me, law enforcement leaders across the Commonwealth.
Do you have any, just comment on the relationship between your office and the DA, particularly just given this news about the current?
Look, I've addressed that issue. I would just tell you that our gun violence task force continues to work well together. We need an all-hands-on-deck approach. Everyone needs to be working together to deal with this epidemic of gun violence, and I know our officers are committed to continuing that good work.
What age women, I guess, we need to target with this program? I mean, you have to be 21 and purchase, so I'm just curious. High school girls, obviously, I mean, it's nice to let them know early, but they're not old enough to buy a gun anyway. 21-year-olds may not be reaching, so I was just curious.
So in Boston, we did do a program with the youth, the girls, in a summer program, and we started with ages 7th and 8th graders. So we feel like it's the earlier you start, because the reason why young girls end up holding and hiding, it's usually when they're a little bit older when they start doing that, but it's a lack of self-confidence and self-worth. So that's why we try to get them as young as we can, and we're working to create more programming around that as well.
I just wanted to also add that oftentimes getting the word out and getting education to the community will empower those that are 17, 16, 17, to be a messenger, to carry the message about what can happen when you become a straw purchaser.
Great. Thank you all very much. Thank you, guys.